Ebusafo system no ka say the kame akọ say good news be hit on Mame Agrada's land. Enche bia na empofrum ya amnum ya statement bi ababeto abontan say people bi abeto abontan before. Current sitting president of Ghana, Republic of Ghana. I can say as a people no yesterday say on the article 72 e wo say president bi bebia no also otimi eji omomoda nsewom na say prisoners no otimi eji bi epie. Now request ebuso for mode call and say only nipa do request the call mode call say crime check officer mode call so only omo
to help us. So we also want you to use your good office. And one thing I have realized is that most of the people who come from the northern part of the country, if you go to the Nsawam Security Prison, most of our brothers from the north are in prison because of the push and pull factors, which we are all aware. They come and then there are non-existent jobs. Eventually, they get into criminal gangs and so on and so forth. And they are there. So what can we do? What would your government do differently? I'm sure there have been a lot of interventions in the past, but I would want you to look at it critically, ensure that there are more jobs in the north so that we don't have our brothers and sisters, obviously. So if you look at media reportage, when there is a crime, if you look at the names, you have Muslim and Northern names usually there.
I had a very good prison services board chaired by...
Out of 2014, no, emu 999 and I would me ayi omo pi abonten sisi ye baba beji omo na before sansemre ababeto highway no so na ebi mu ka se ena na se Mame Agradaa obeba fi enche Mame Agradaa obeba fi onche esan se ye yi business enipa makomako se 900 plus dia ena na ka me kwa se Mame Agradaa na ngofo ka se betima ba fi no kure abusafo ti se Mame Agradaa ko dem no no kure sister ko sabe reaction on the same story I make say make ho aseme now story ni mu no estati say enipa ko bu ho no ma omu first time so mo offend like first time offender no yesi betima ja wo mu amomaba ena esa estati say ngofo bi a life imprisonment mo twa bi amana ka bi no what metron be to third bi no ebuso yesi etimi ju e ma obafie ene bi on so like ebi wo ma doso so ho ebusafo e disambo fu ko we mu ya ne musa ho se etimu amu ka se Mame Agradaa beba no Mame Agradaa beba no
Hey, Abusia, another breaking news about Betonum way presidential amnesty for prisoners. Now, Abusia, according to reporting, nipa 998 na omoye den sa semu omoye prisoners ebe affectiomo ewo ye man Ghana mu out of 1014 na nyina omo age na article 72 eso na Abusia omo chema so ye first time offender eno omo be gina so eyi nipa 787 ena omo so ayaka chom se Kofi ekowu sankrofo no ye besesa ede aba sebe eye life imprisonment yes ye omo ayeku omo ewo ho no no ye de omo ba life enti meaning se ho e na ba ye den obetena forever of your life eno nipa mako 87 ena saa we no embe de ombetimi enya na omo so ayama omo life no se ye reduce about 20 years instead of so obekọ mu life no yate so about 20 years 20 years no nipa omo betimi ensa aka eye nipa 51 na omo so omo ye seriously ill to say no omo ate so omo yare omo wu na Nkansah no omo so ye nipa mako 33 omo so omo edin fie over 70 years eye number 5 no ye one na omo edin fie over 70 years irrespective of offense simple the boneba but so far as when you mfisia ebro so 70 years no there definitely no nipa mako 36 na ye beden ye de omo ebehemu na omo say number 6 so nursing mothers no nipa 2 se bi omo awo ana omo ma ewo omo nchen ewo prison na omo wo ho no eno nipa mienu pe na omo so omo ye petition number 7 me pacho eno so nipa mienu. We ya quick breaking news a free Felix Kwachi Ofosu MP and spokesperson to the president, Minister Government of Communication. Abusia na eneya na sa breaking news kasi ebeto honum amnesty for prisoners in Ghana. Abusia breaking news share now so for adwempo efa to ase efa mame. Abusia for mede caption no atoso ntito was na biemu now so for adwempo etos follow page a message say we follow am because a back quickest breaking news ena benya no makra.
Agradaa ba obeba no ofole under which category mo ka se mame Agradaa obeba no. Abusia for se se mkofo person mo de mame Agradaa for se no mo de ne share first time offender ho because Mama Agradaa they seen the first time they call them in ceremony. But I may come say, and then this is not the first time Mama Agradaa offended Chromia. You can action the first one. Second one, it's a for Agradaa is not coming anymore. Agradaa Mbabe Bia Mufasano and Tumutrim. Ghana Mra Bia as a government be able for Uchumu time Timba and Afukrana. Emrano so apecha onubedi sa as system we our system ye penu kwa wedie tima edema ye ho sa watwi na busafo ye penu Ghana man we mu Ghana generation we no se de ya so aye hye no government abaye wa wu asabi wa no enya hwe 4 years in sabe kwa ba ne be hwe ebusafo eti Ghana fo moda mame Agradaa first time offender mo pese mo de ne hye ho ne yi ne pie no mo twemu time Agradaa ontimi ensamba ontimi pie free insaba mu ho miente sister coast any crime officer enkomodi abuzafo oba bedi one president temama sitting president one ne ADD enkomo no miente enkomo no so emra medwa asese adwuma smart tv so ne de GhPage no so ne demo subscribe na share link no na ma ho for so ensanka this particular video many so said dan dan nya so ba I bet you are doing comment section.
Give amnesty to many of them on health grounds, and then for many whose crimes were not very serious and had served, more than half their term, we tried to get a lot of them out, and that was one of the biggest amnesties we did, and it helped to decongest the prisons. But the conditions in the cells were terrible. The ventilation is very poor, and the prison cells are overcrowded. I mean, a room that should take like 4 people, has about 10 people stuffed in there. And for those of us who have, asthma-related diseases, I mean, some of us will die if we're ever locked in that cell because you won't be able to breathe, really. So, I mean, it's something that one takes seriously. After that prison visit, I asked for the building of a remand block, if you remember, and work started before I left office. I get stalled, but it's something that we should be able to do so that we move all the remand prisoners into that block so that it decongests the cells, and then we can even move some of the prisoners in there, take our time, and renovate those cells properly. They need better ventilation. There must be a way to get fresh air into those prisons. Into those cells, and then also they have an infirmary that is nothing to write home about. I think even a school's clinic is much better than the Sawam infirmary that I saw. So you're preaching to the converted when you talk about prison reform of prison conditions. Remand prisoners are the most worrisome, and we've all supported that Justice for All program where judges go to the prisons and listen to some of the remand cases and, deal with them expeditiously. And so those are all things that we support and we think it should be done. With the appointment of a chief inspector, I think that we have Charge is responsible for those things because Charge is responsible for human rights. And so I think that the Commission on Human Rights and Administration Justice should visit the prisons from time to time and write an annual report on the state of the prisons. Charge does its reports on human rights in Ghana. I do think that prisons should become an important part of that work that they do and visit the prisons, make recommendations for government.
Petty offenders are quickly swept into prison. And obviously, no matter the decongestion approach, the prisons will continue to be full.
The conditions in the cells were terrible. The ventilation is very poor. And for those of us who have, asthma-related diseases, I mean, some of us would die if we were ever locked in that cell.
One thing that we want to talk about as a foundation, which is troubling, is the non-custodial sentencing bill. It's been in Parliament since your tenure, I remember very well. And I really don't understand why the bill is still in Parliament when we obviously know the importance if that bill is passed into law. So it has created a situation where our prisons have become congested, because if petty offenders are quickly swept into prison, then obviously, no matter the decongestion approach, the prisons will continue to be full. So we want to use your good offices to also drum home the need for that bill to be passed into law. Another troubling issue is the need also for government to appoint a chief inspector of prisons. In the UK and other jurisdictions, we have a chief inspector of prisons. The Attorney General's Department and other institutions are doing the monitoring to ensure that there is compliance in the way our prisons are handled. But because they are all under government, it becomes possible to do the naming and shaming. So if you have a chief inspector of prisons, in the UK, when the chief inspector of prisons is visiting, they do periodic visits. The UK government shakes, trembles actually, because of the report that will come out. So if you could have something like that, I think it will go a long way to help us. So we also want you to use your good offices. And one thing I have realized is that most of the people who come from the northern part of the country, if you go to the Nsawam Security Prison, most of our brothers from the north are in prison because of the push and pull factors, which we are all aware. They come and then there are non-existent jobs. Eventually, they get into criminal gangs and so on and so forth. And they are there. So what can we do? What would your government do differently? I'm sure there have been a lot of interventions in the past, but I would want you to look at it critically, ensure that there are more jobs in the north so that we don't have our brothers and sisters, obviously. So if you look at media reportage, when there is a crime, if you look at the names, you have Muslim and Northern names usually there.
I had a very good prison services board chaired by the current General Superintendent of the Assemblies of God, Pastor Wengam, Reverend Wengam. And they invited me to visit Nsawam prison. And what I saw there, if you say they had even cleaned up before I got there, then the conditions are even worse than I thought, After that, we had a big meeting with all the prisoners. And after that, I did that amnesty that